Well, good morning, and look, got headphones on. I've got headphones on because of things happen. You know what I mean when I say things happen.
You know exactly what I'm getting at.
So I thought better to be safe than sorry. Anyway, it's Monday, you're looking fantastic. Let's get straight into the meat and potatoes. And we're going to start off the week with an apology. Two apologies. One for putting you through that video yesterday. But I felt that, look, I can make mistakes. And I felt that you should see behind the scenes at how these mistakes happen. And secondly, what the video was actually about. And look, I think what's important to do in certain situations is to say when you think that something isn't right. And I did a video yesterday, and in hindsight, I think to myself it was quite knee-jerk. And I think that a few creators had the same sort of thing. Some information comes out and you get frustrated, you get annoyed, because this piece of information will come out and it looks like it's coming out from someone who is close to the case. And in this sense, we're talking about an actual family member of one of the victims. And they come out and they bring this information out. And you think to yourself, right, this just brings more questions. It brings more confusion. The 8 hours time delay between what happened and 911, that throws even more shade upon that and the people involved in that. And you come out and you talk to people, and then you think to yourself, hold on a second, hold on. And I think it was J-Rod over on his channel. He was talking about it. I'll put his thing up on screen. If you don't know who he is, go check him out. Not going to be everyone's cup of tea, like I'm not everyone's cup of tea, but his heart's in the right place and he's got some information over there. Specifically, they talk about the Kylie Rodney case. But anyway, point being, with regards to this door situation, and what they're trying to say is that, look, Ethan was in the room. And they've called people over and Hunter has gone to open the door because apparently no one can get the door open. And there's this long conversation about, you know, they can't get the door open. There's a question as to why didn't they go upstairs unless they knew what had happened upstairs, and they called other people over. They came over and then they still couldn't get the door open. And then Hunter has apparently got the door to a point where he can get his head around the door, see what's happened. And he has turned around and said, look, get the fuck out of here. And this is when this has all gone into utter chaos. And I covered the 911 call months and months and months ago. You can go and find it. There's a thumbnail that says 911 call, and then I revisited it after a few people asked me to revisit it. But it kind of does fall in line with that. But again, like every other thing to do with this case, you don't know what's right and what isn't right. But this specific piece of information regarding this door, let's not forget that the documentation, the PCA documentation, the documentation that gave the statements of officers who went in there and done the sweep around the property, they very clearly stated that upon approaching that room, that they saw a victim on approach to the room. And then they enter the room and see the other victim. So in the event that that door was not open, or it was partially open, only to the point where someone could get their head round the door, then that documentation is false. So I don't see how that can be the case. I don't see how that piece of information can be accurate, which then brings the question as to why would anybody say it? What is the purpose of it? Is it to throw people off? Is it to put more poison in the ointment, so to speak? I just don't get it. But again, I'm apologising because I've done a video on this information. And yeah, at the end of the day, it's information that's out there. And I didn't state that the information was accurate. I did, but I think I didn't do enough to question it in that video. Thankfully, I did that video in the...
You know this voice.
So probably better that I did leave it for this one to kind of discount it. And again, you still can't discount it because you don't know if the documentation from the officers was even accurate. It's got to the point where nothing in this case is trustworthy, not on social media. Not on social media. And I think that we have all been party to that, and we have to accept responsibility. And again, for that, I apologise. It's becoming increasingly more frustrating. And I know people will turn around and they will say, look, we need to wait for the court case. We need to wait to see what happens there. But the point is, you can't even trust that to be done right. Did you know 5% of convictions in the US are wrong? Wrongful convictions. That's crazy. DNA convictions have been made that have been wrong. And there are so many things in that DNA process that can go wrong. The procedure with which DNA is handled and results are interpreted there can be an error. So when people are arguing about the fact that the defence are asking for this information and they're questioning why are they doing it, this is just all to do with innocent until proven guilty. That is why, did you know, that is why that entire innocent until proven guilty has been set up. That is why you have, as United States citizens, you have the innocent until proven guilty. Because the system is flawed if you don't treat it that way. Because people are. There's over 2,000 convictions that have been exonerated in the US since, I believe, like the 1930s. Some really, really famous cases as well. And look, without making this video too long, you can go on to Google and do this sort of research yourself. And I would say do it. Go out there and get on Google yourself and look at how many convictions happen. That I think it is like 1 in 20 convictions are wrongful convictions if you base it on that 5% of all convictions are wrong. And again, over 2,000 convictions that have been exonerated, and some of them are DNA convictions that have been done wrong. The vast majority of them are eyewitness accounts that point the finger in the wrong direction, and lo and behold, that can be that an eyewitness can point police in a certain direction, law enforcement in a certain direction, and they can latch onto someone because they believe that that is then the person, and then they build a case round that eyewitness's account and who they've been told it is. And lo and behold, what does that sometimes entail? The manufacturing of a case, manufacturing of evidence. It happens. Open your eyes if you think it doesn't, because it does. But everybody just needs to be more vigilant. Whatever you see on social media, whatever you're listening to, whoever you're listening to, do your due diligence before you make a decision based on that information. And again, yesterday's information that I put out and others put out, I don't think any of us 100% put it out as fact, but ultimately we could have done more certainly to pull that apart and perhaps, rather than push that out to people, at least try and see how that works in with the bigger picture, because that had just as many questions about how that fitted in as to how, if that is real, it fits in with like the 8-hour time delay. The 8-hour time delay here, I must admit, is the biggest cause of so many issues in this case. So many issues. It doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense. It will never ever make sense. And I feel, and I think many others feel, that is something that needs to be investigated on its own, separately, away from the Brian Kohberger situation. And for a few different reasons. One being that it is a felony not to report. And There's so many stories that would point towards the fact that they just didn't report it to law enforcement. They did, in fact, report it to other people prior to law enforcement. But who knows? I spoke about before, could they have, law enforcement have leveraged that? Let me know down below how you feel. What's going on with all the information? Why is there so many people trying to put poison in the ointment? Why is that? Just don't get it. Justice, that's what we want. True justice. The right person for the right crime, and for these victims to get their justice. I'll catch you all in the next one.